Eric Sheetsaber back. Good to have you, man.
We're back.
We're back. Yeah, it's time to get after it again. It's been I need you back a little bit. It's been a little bit of a bumpy week or so for me. So
yeah, how have things been going in DFS? Like, how's True DFS been running? How have you been running? How's like the overall tenor of MLB? Like, what's been going on?
We do have a member who won 100K last night. So
what?
Congratulations to Leonidas. Yeah.
No way. He won. Leonidas won 100,000.
Yeah, he won 100K. He won 88.
He's the man.
So congrats to him. That's a nice thing to see. We've had a lot of people with some mixed up and down results at that time of the year for baseball, and the playoffs have been obviously completely wild. So it's been going okay. It's just been trying to get the right things in the right places. I nearly got the 100K on Friday. Just missed out because Kershaw kind of blew up, and it was a tough matchup. But
you get another shot in about an hour.
That's what I'm doing. I'm rolling back with it. I don't think I'm going to see two bad ones in a row. So yeah, that's been pretty much pretty much it's been. We've been piecing it together, but it's been a little bit that quiet time. We've got the players, the championship next week that I'm looking forward to for golf. Obviously, we have a golf tournament today, which we'll do a video on later. Yeah, man, really happy to have you back. It's definitely not.
We got and then we want to do a roundtable next week.
Yeah, I think that would be a great idea.
Okay.
I'll set it up. I just haven't pursued it quite yet, but I think that's probably a good idea.
Yeah, next Tuesday Tuesday or Wednesday I'll be ready for a live thing.
Awesome.
I'm going that same trip that had been postponed from Florida for like 100 years in a row. I'm taking a week from Thursday night. So it's a week from Thursday, but next Tuesday or Wednesday, if you want to we'll do a live sweat. We'll do a round table, and if you're doing a site call, I'll be on that. I'm ready to get back in there.
Awesome, man. Well, yeah, we're happy to have you back too. I know Chan's been doing some of the LOL stuff because there's been a few slates. So
nice.
It's we're getting everything going. It's and then just getting ready for the early slate today, and not a whole lot after that. To be honest.
So there's a 4-gamer later. Is that what's happening?
Yeah, there's that other one later. I'm happy to do my thing and touch on it, but I don't think it's going to be a particularly exciting one. Probably won't play too heavy on that one. So I've been playing a lot. One thing I've learned with the baseball is just I really like playing satellites more in baseball than I do in basketball.
Okay.
And I've been doing really well with it. I won a 44 buy-in to the Millionaire Maker for golf for next week. I won a couple of the 555 and 888. Like just I think that it's funny because it's like I usually just go down, and then in basketball I don't like to have that lineup could have been in this or kind of a thing.
Right.
But with baseball, we call
that the roadie.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a little bit probably even a flaw sometimes in my game, but anyway, it should be fun. This is a nice morning.
Wait. So what did you want to see to the 440?
The 4,444 buy-in for the Millionaire Maker for next week.
Oh, sweet. Well, because that's a major next week.
Yeah, it's the major next week.
Oh, dude, I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, one kind of cool thing to update you guys on is that the MMA World Championship qualifier, I won a seat to that months ago, and they had the first round where they reduced 100 to 40 this past weekend, and I made it. I got through to the next.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, and then if you get through the next one, you make the live final. So they're going to play that off, and we'll talk about that not this weekend, but next weekend. So next weekend's like really, really big, and I'm going to be away to be rooting, but I'll be here for Wednesday night because we'll talk through that 444 for you. Yeah. And we'll talk through the MMA qualifier for me. And unfortunately for that one, I'm going to have to be a little circumspect about who I'm taking because everybody knows I'm one of the guys left, and there's 40 people down for 15, so I can't exactly tell people what I'm doing, and I'm dealing with all kinds of freaking parentheses. You know what I mean? Like I got my one thing, and MMA specifically is like a thing where you really benefit from being able to say, oh, I'll just take one from each side of this fight. You know what I mean? Right. So a real disadvantage going against parentheses people into something like that. So
absolutely.
So I'm not going to be able to give people away who I'm actually playing, but I'm going to talk through the process at least a little bit. But that's something to look forward to for next week. But I'm ready. A lot of cool stuff going on. So you want to just go game by game? We may as well, right?
Yeah, we may as well. I think that makes a lot of sense. It's going to be I'm having a very hard time, and I put my early builds in the premium Discord. I'm having a very hard time getting away from some of the chalk on this slate, it's a big enough slate where I should be able to do that. But at least as far as main stacks go, it's very hard for me not to have the Yankees as the number one stack. And I understand the ownership and everything that you have to embrace. My thinking is I'm going to place a lot of Yankees. I'll try to keep it to 3 and 4 mans. And my way of getting a little bit different is actually playing the other side of this game and playing the A's. You've got Carlos Perez cheap at catcher at 2,400. Love the outfielders. Ruiz will just run whenever he gets a chance to, basically if he gets on base. I love Rooker's power upside. This guy's having a tremendous season and people aren't really noticing it. Then you've got Noda in there, who's just a good hitter, and I think that offers some upside. JJ Bleday is 2,600 batting fourth. Jordan Diaz hit 3 home runs yesterday. He's batting fifth at 2,400. A lot of options on the other side that make it, and they're going to be low owned. So a lot of options on the A's that I think are low owned in a way to maybe blend your chalk in with the team like that, a 3 or 4 man with the A's, with a 4 man with the Yankees or something like that is something I'm considering.
Yeah, I have the Yankees as one of the top 2 stacks and also one of the top 2 owned stacks, which I guess you're alluding to. Mm-hmm. I'm not getting either of the pitchers here. I got my once and future hero Kyle Higashioka at catcher at 2,500.
Yep.
He kind of is leading he's kind of leading the charge. Also, what's his name had an enormous day the other day. Harrison Bader. Yep. I have him, and then the normal dudes. Judge is back. Then Rizzo, Kiner Falefa. Maybe people won't play him as much because he, I guess, kind of stinks. I don't know, but so anyway, yeah, I do have them rated pretty high, which means probably end up if I play chalk pitchers, probably gonna have to fade them. But yeah, I think we're pretty much on the same page. Tough to get away from. Probably gonna have to a little bit. I didn't think of taking Oakland, so I gotta actually think about that. I had 2 others kind of like off the beaten pathers that we'll get to, but yeah. So I guess we can all agree the Yankees are a good stack, and probably going to be pretty popular.
Yeah, absolutely. And my argument for the A's is also like we talk a lot about how teams that score runs and who's going to score the most runs and everything, and yeah, that's usually the team that you want to go after, but teams like the A's that may not score as much, but they're going to do their scoring on home runs, and then you have the stolen base upside on top of it. I just feel like there's 5 runs for them might mean 3 home runs and 4 stolen bases. You know what I mean? So you could get a lot more production out of those lower scoring teams sometimes, and that's something that I think is just worth considering. I've watched a few stacks win lately, and by the way, a lot of non-stacking winning too lately. But a few stacks that have won lately. You get these weird, like they score 4 or 5 runs, but you just get the right pieces, and then all the complementary pieces, the guys all hit 2 home runs or something like that. It's just kind of funny. But I like the A's, maybe not as a full stack, but as a stack. All right, let's see what we got here. So Pittsburgh and Colorado. There's a lot of pitchers to consider on this slate. I actually am pretty high on Rich Hill. He's a tricky lefty because he actually is, historically his numbers have gone back and forth of being really good against righties and then also having some troubles. But I think the upside is there. And I think, Colorado coming off of they scored a ton of runs yesterday. I think this is an interesting spot to take Rich Hill. So he is one of the pitchers I'm considering using. And I didn't get to the hitting, but I mean, Pittsburgh's expensive and it's going to keep them low owned. I don't love stacking at Senzatella in general because he keeps the ball on the ground so much, but you certainly could consider it. I also don't love attacking Colorado pitchers outside of Coors because I feel like the numbers always treat them as if that they're the same pitcher outside of Coors, and it's a lot different than pitching in Pittsburgh. So I'm not getting to as many of the Pirates or the Rockies for hitting, but I certainly wouldn't fault anybody as a pivot stack. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm getting to, and this is going to be one of the couple. I'm getting to Colorado as kind of a, not the best, not the most popular, obviously not the most popular stack. Now, again, playing Colorado on the road has always been a recipe for failure. Which, listen, that's what's cool about baseball. Well, yeah, that's what's going to keep their ownership low, among other things. So I do have them as playable. They're one of 2 or 3 kind of stacks like that are going to probably look sort of ugly. But I was going to ask you about Rich Hill because you're that Rich Hill's one of the million pitchers that have come through the Dodger system. I guess who you know really well.
Mhm.
And Senzatella, you always had kind of a good read on Senzatella in general, like when to kind of play him, when to stack against him, when to fade teams that everybody's stacking against him, because that happens sometimes also.
Yeah, and the thing is, he throws people off with his numbers, and the funny part is, I feel like the people who are the more advanced people are convinced he's getting lucky because they see the hard hit rate against him,
Right.
but they're all hard hit on the ground. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a big difference, and stuff like that, people just don't weigh in enough, and I think that's an important thing. So that's partly why I'm not quite as high on that one.
Okay, so how about a Cy Young to be Erod?
Yeah, I initially was planning on doing this as a pivot thing. I'm not playing any Erod today.
Mhm.
I don't like this matchup particularly, although there's some weak bats in that Cleveland lineup. It's fine. I prefer getting up to a little bit higher for who did I have at 90? Oh, I like Javier a little bit better at 9,800.
Mhm.
And I think I like Merrill Kelly a little bit better at 8,300, which is really weird for me to say out loud. And then I think Battenfield is going to get some ownership, and not a ton, but I think that he's in play just because it's Detroit, and we've seen him. He threw 90 plus pitches and pitched 7 innings last start, probably a ceiling start. I don't mind mixing him into the group of these pitchers. So for me, it's really Battenfield, and I actually like the other side though too. I think that my other secondary stack that's sort of going to be the low owned one. And again, they're going to be 3-mans or probably not even 4-mans, probably just 3-mans. But I like Detroit offers that value. They've been hitting the ball a little bit better, and McKinstry, Baez. Who else do we have that I had from my list tagged? McKinstry, Baez, Riley Green being my favorites. Baду, if you want to go that low, and then Torkelson is 2,400 batting cleanup at first base. I think that's an interesting route to take when they're going to be completely unowned. So I have a little bit of the Battenfield and a little bit of the Detroit side of the hitting for.
Yeah, I have Detroit as kind of like a value. And by the way, not to if anybody didn't catch this, we did not even come close to getting past with the Cardinals.
Oh God!
Didn't matter who they were playing; they got roasted. I think finally, when they were 0-5, they put up 15 runs to win like the game on Sunday, maybe.
Yeah, something like that. It's ridiculous.
With Goldie with like 11 home runs or something like that. That was
yeah.
But that was the end of that. But Tigers, I have them as kind of an okay value. Sheets stupid stack that probably not going to end up playing. And I just kind of threw the name out there. I'm not getting to Erod. I have like my 14th best pitcher today. But listen, you're doing great. You guys,
he's been really good.
Give it what it is. And I'm similar. I have Battenfield as kind of one of those point per dollar dudes. Another guy who's just going to be better, I think, but we'll get to that. But yeah, Battenfield I think is kind of in play, and not only that, he might be actually a decent pivot off of what I think is going to be a chalkier guy. But we'll get to all that. I'm not really getting to Cleveland, so I guess we can move on.
Yeah. And by the way, there was a time I really was debating going for the Cleveland stack, and I just can't quite talk myself into it. Just because Detroit's bullpen is really bad, and if you can get the wild Erod game, you might be in good shape. Okay, so Kershaw and Miley. I have Kershaw as the top pitcher on the slate. It's very, very close between some of the guys. I actually don't think it should be that close in general. Like I just think you bet on the best pitcher, and I think that he's quite simply. I mean, he was the best pitcher in baseball the first month of the year. He had one bad start against San Diego. I'm not going to hold it against him. This is a guy who almost never has 2 bad starts in a row. Milwaukee, obviously, they're a competent offense, but it's nothing that's going to scare me off of them. 10-4 seems completely reasonable. I think he bounces back in a big way and is very strong today. So I like Kershaw, and I like the Dodgers more as another little bit more of a finding myself with the 3-man stuff. No Muncy in the lineup is just, I hate not having him because even if it's lefty, even if he strikes out whatever 4 times, the guy just sees a million pitches. He makes you throw strikes, keeps the lineup moving, usually walks a time or 2 every game. It just having him out of the lineup makes me a little bit shy away from the full 5-man. But I do really like Vargas at 2,500 at second base. I love Mookie. I love Will Smith, and Chris Taylor would be my main four. But I think Vargas will be the low owned of the bunch.
I didn't get to the hitting here, but as far as the pitching goes, I'm sort of in agreement with you. It's only kind of a natural transition into the next game to ask, who I would like more between him and Castillo. I have them, very similar in price, very similar in projection, very similar in ownership. You know what I mean? So it's and listen, very similar in matchup, I think. So I don't know. I don't know who I like most. I mean, you're seeming to imply that it shouldn't be that close. I'm having a difficult time between those two.
Well, I think that it looks close on paper and it looks close in everything. The fact is, like, if Kershaw would have put up 3 games, because there's still sort of an image about Kershaw that he doesn't have the strikeout upside that other guys do, which is just basically factually inaccurate. Right. And also Castillo, like if Kershaw was coming off 3 games like Castillo, I don't think there's any chance he would be like in the top 5 of owned pitchers today. I really don't. It's actually, I don't know. It's kind of strange that there's like a reverse thing against him. Kershaw's been over 20, what is he at the previous 3, 25, 36, 35, with an awesome strikeout rate. Castillo has not been great with the strikeouts lately. And now he's had some tougher matchups. Toronto, Houston, obviously a little tougher, but he had St. Louis in there and he didn't do extremely well there. Had the one monster game against Colorado and one against the Angels earlier this year. I don't know how much weight I want to give it into all this. I do love Castillo. I've always liked him as a pitcher. We've seen that you can shut down Texas, and this, with the other Mariners pitchers have been doing so in this series already. But I do like Castillo. He is. I have him as the second best pitcher on the slate.
Okay.
I do think Kershaw is. If someone makes me decide between those two, I don't feel like it's a very difficult decision for me to just take Kershaw.
Fair enough.
What do you have in this one other than Castillo?
Oh, that was it. That was it. I didn't have any of the hitting. I didn't have any of it.
Yeah, it's tough. It's sort of the Dunning thing is it's a bullpen-ish game. Like if he struggles, he'll be out of there, probably in 3 or 4 innings. If he doesn't, he goes 4 or 5 if he's like perfect. I guess like he could be there for 2 or 3 actually. And I don't really want to stack a bullpen game, but Suarez as a one-off at 3,900 always for a home run upside. Ty France. I'm still not playing Julio Rodriguez yet, even though it's interesting because he's looked a little bit better at the plate, but it's just to pay that much for him. I just find that there's other guys I usually want to spend for over him. Later in the season, I might change my mind on that when he starts looking like he did last year. But I think Seattle is a team to consider, but I didn't find myself with much of them. All right. What do you got in the what do you have?
So I think these 2 pitchers are sort of interesting pivots if you want to know the truth. They're not they're not my favorites, but Merrill Kelly 8,300, he's got a ceiling at that number, I think, against Miami. And I think that as you kind of turned me on to, every time he starts, I think Cabrera always has a ceiling. And I'm pretty sure that within the last couple of games, he's had 10, 12 strikeouts, or something like that.
He had 8 and 12 the last 2 games.
So he's got a ceiling too. So listen, neither of these guys are going to be projecting as well as some of these others. So they're going to both be, I imagine, on the low owned side. So I think that's pretty reasonable in GPPs. Miami, I have is kind of like a point per dollar-ish, stack as I always do. But I'd rather take shots at the pitchers in this game than the hitting.
I'm with you on that. Both pitchers are definitely up there for me. I actually like Cabrera, especially at really low ownership. Yeah. No one's going to play him. The roof is finally closed in Arizona because it's hot and it's a day game. It's been open for a little while now. I do think that helps the pitchers out a little bit. And I think both Kelly and Cabrera are on my list. I have Cabrera actually a little bit higher because of the ownership. So I also don't mind I think I would be more likely to at least get some pieces from Miami than I would Arizona, but both are totally fine. This is sort of where I'm running into trouble, is that I have all these teams that are fine and then a couple teams that I really like. Unfortunately, that's the same thing everybody else has. And usually I can find something that's a pivot. I don't love these either of these as full stacks, but I do think that as mini stacks, and you've got some, you've got De La Cruz and Jesus Sanchez as super cheap for Miami, depending on where they're hitting in the order. So I think there are some pieces here that I don't mind, but Gabriel Moreno, I'll see where he ends up. I like him as a one-off at catcher potentially, but nothing I'm going out of my way to target.
So it's weird that this next game is the one that I think is like really, really critical, but it's weird. So Washington against San Francisco. So here are my opinions. I think that when I first saw like Manaya at 5,900, I'm like, okay, he's going to be like 40% owned. And then because he's really cheap and is against Washington. And then I look at his game log and he's like negative every single game, like, except for like a couple of them. So I'm thinking, okay, if he is going to be popular, I'm going to go chicken play Washington against them. And then I look at the other side of this. I'm like, we're back to Josiah Gray again. He's just he's all kinds of volatility. I mean, in GPPs, so you could play him, you could stack against him. And so I think that all four of these segments are playable in different ways, But I'm looking at the ownership on Manea, and I see only 15%. I think it's probably going to be higher. That's my guess. So I was hoping to get your opinion on this. I think that all four segments of this game are have merit.
Yep, totally agree with everything you said. I do like Manaya for what it's worth. One of his biggest problems is his control. So you have a team in Washington that tends to actually make more contact. Like they're not a good offense, but they make contact partly because they swing early in counts, which actually I think really helps a guy like Manaya out. So I actually am pretty high on Manaya, but I am also very high on Josiah Gray. I don't feel like he's being treated correctly by projection systems, if that makes any sense at all. I don't. Every time, no one will play him. One thing is, okay, let's go through the things. Does he have the strikeout upside? Absolutely. Does he have the leash? Absolutely. San Francisco has struck out more than any team in baseball this season against righties, which is kind of interesting to think about. He's put up in two of his last three games. He put up 32 and 24. And you put them against the highest strikeout team. This guy, he might be 2-5 right now he's got a 3 ERA. And he other than the first game of the season where Atlanta hit him for 3 home runs and got to him, he's been over double digits in every game. I feel like there actually is a reasonable floor, even if he gives up runs. He still was going to give up some home runs from time to time, but I kind of like. I like Gray. I have 20% Gray right now. I have like 40% Manaya. But I also think if you wanted to take the other approach, I have no problem with it. I don't think you're getting a whole discount in ownership. That's my only issue with it, I guess.
Okay.
I think Washington pieces and San Francisco pieces will be a little bit more popular than the other ones I mentioned. And I guess it's the reason why I didn't play them as much. But if you want to play Jock Peterson from that set, Jock Peterson, Lamont Wade, Tiaro Estrada, and then you've got Lane Thomas, Joey Meneses on the other side. I think all those guys are totally fine. Luis Garcia. But I'm just not. I'm more on the side of pitching in this game than hitting. And I always do. I kind of wanted to stop myself because I always like to play the San Francisco in the day games because the stadium does play a lot better as a hitter's park during the day. It's 57 degrees still. You just can't get warm in San Francisco ever. If this game was 70, I might be talking all about the hitters, and I just can't find myself doing that today. So I'm not as not going to be as high on the guys in this game from the hitting side as I am the pitching. So, all right. Well, then you get two excellent pitchers against two horrible matchups. And my thinking is on this slate, I'm just going to cross this game off Toronto and Philly. A little nerve wracking, but I think everything is in play here. But I'm just prefer the other spots better.
I couldn't agree more. There's no name for this situation, but the way I like to describe it is the pitchers are good enough to keep me off the bats, and the bats are good enough to keep me off the pitchers.
Yep.
So it's probably a good baseball game. Probably a preview of something. I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm just not gonna. I don't think there's any edge in DFS to pick any of those four legs.
Yep. Agreed.
On the other hand. In this last game, I'm getting the Astros is just as good as the Yankees. Probably just as high owned, maybe as well, but that's what I'm getting, and I'm getting Javier just on the outside, looking into these other pitchers we talked about, like Kershaw and not Giolito, Castillo. and then the pay downs like Minai or whatever. So I'm getting Javier just a little bit behind them,
Mhm.
which I guess makes it a decent pivot, I suppose. So
Mhm.
that's what I got. I got Astros, the kind of the master of the obvious, and then I got Javier as well.
Yep, pretty same page. I like Houston. The problem is, again, the ownership. It doesn't feel great to me that my favorite teams to stack are Houston, the Yankees, and the Dodgers. Like, actually, it's more Houston and the Yankees. But I do think that, like, let's see, Corey Jolks, if he's in the lineup. What is interesting about this is maybe they do end up lower owned just because they may not have the lineup out by the time the Yankee game starts.
All right, that's something.
So I think that they actually end up a little bit lower owned maybe than we think. But still, I do think like Alvarez and Tucker will be pretty popular. I think Pena and Bregman. But I think after those guys, like you look, Abreu, I don't understand what's happened to this guy. If he's just got somehow he aged like 20 years in the offseason. But I still, look, he's still batting cleanup and he's going to be low. He's going to be one of the lower owned guys. Corey Jolks being another one. So I would say if you're going to make a 5-man stack, you probably want to include those guys or Chas McCormick, assuming that he's in the lineup today. And you do have Dubon questionable. So there could be a shakeup in their lineup that we haven't even thought of yet. And one of these guys like Jolks or McCormick maybe even hitting at the top of the order, depending on what happens with Dubon. But I like Houston. I don't know if I like them as one of the chalk teams. So I'm just trying, I guess that's sort of my route today is to play the Houston 4-man or 3-man, same thing with the Yankees, and then try to use the A's, Detroit, some Miami, as my, and the Dodgers as my other, maybe fuller stacks. But pretty much if I'm playing the Dodgers, Yankees, and Houston, even the 4-mans, I want to get at least a 3-man in to go with it of one of those other teams that I mentioned. I think that's sort of the strategy that I'm going to use today.
Maybe I'll just end up just doing something like maybe. And can I tell you something for someone who's friends with you? I play like Kershaw so little. I think I'm going to play him today. I think I might play both Kershaw and Javier. That might be
nice.
What I
like
doing.
I'm very into the Minaya thing, so I didn't get to I'm just looking at my ownerships right now. I've got Castillo 35, Kershaw 50, Minaya 40, Gray 20, Javier 15, Hill 15, and Cabrera 15. And 10% of the last 10% goes to Merrill Kelly.
Yeah.
But yeah, so trying to mix in, again, that's what I think, it's going to come down to for me, because I feel like there's a chance that I feel like there's a better chance that Houston lets you down than the Yankees. I mean, of course, anybody could in baseball. It's hard for me to see the Yankees struggling against the worst bullpen in baseball and Mueller.
The Yankees kind of stink. I don't know, maybe
they've been hitting now, and
they've been hitting better. Okay.
Yeah, they've put up, and I think the last couple of days they put up like a combined like 16 runs or 15 runs or something like that. I don't know exactly what it is, but yeah. So it's it's an interesting one, and it's definitely trickier to get off the board than I'd like. And if you want to just say F it and play Pittsburgh or something like that, I have no problem if anybody wants to do that. I just don't like it enough to where I see the value in it. And I think San Francisco would be a similar thing, because you could just hope that Gray is having one of his bad games. But even they're getting decent ownership, and I like Gray, so I'm just struggling a little bit, to get exactly what I like here. But I think that's pretty much most of my notes. I'm seeing if there's anything I'm noticing. Guys, pop in any questions or thoughts if you have any. Jump on in and say them. One thing that is interesting is when I was trying to combine different stacks, and like the Dodgers and Yankees are not like a good they don't complement each other well in terms of the stacks, because the positions there's a lot of crossover. Like Betts is now second base and outfield eligible, which means you have Torres and Judge also who you're trying to play. And then you've got guys like Chris Taylor, who's third base and shortstop eligible. But if you're playing a Yankee stack, you probably want LeMahieu and Volpe. So it's just kind of going through that trying to find the teams that do blend together. I like the way that it does I like the positions, the crossover with the A's and Yankees, because The only real Yankee outfielder you really want, you really feel like you need these days is Judge. I do like Bader for what it's worth, but I think you can definitely play Ruiz and Rooker. I'm just high on the A's for upside here. Scares me with the good Yankees bullpen, but these A's are pesky. I mean, they're a bad baseball team, but it's a lot because their pitching is horrible and their bullpen is terrible. They have some up and coming bats that I'm just trying to get ahead on every day, and that's guys like Rooker and Ruiz and Noda to some extent.
Yeah, I'm gonna put a couple of put this on the State Kings. If anybody wants to bet on Sheets coming off a layoff, I can't promise I'm gonna be sharp, but I'm kind of maybe we'll lose a little bit today to set up for tomorrow, but I'll just let you know I'm going to be putting the stuff up there, see what happens. Yeah, I put up I'm telling you, I'm ready to go, dude. I put up tennis this morning. I'm ready. I think I'm ready to play, so I'm
into it. I didn't see the tennis this morning.
Yeah, so I put it up there. So I'm ready. Yeah, it's like 1,000 for first and what I put it. I think I'm in. Whatever it is.
Hey, you got to go
flex a little bit. You know what I mean? Like we got to get it going. And so baseball's up, and so what we'll do is, really, whenever you're ready, we could talk about golf. Or you want to put your lineups in, then we can do it like 12:30.
Yeah, let me just finish my lineups real quick and give me like 10 minutes, and then we can do that.
So 12:15. Okay.
Yeah, sounds great.
See you then.
All right, see you soon. Good luck, everybody.